guys look for good value?
I'd love to mention both of our favorite, both of our favorite things here, which is Bitcoin. That is truly a new monetary technology. What you've just seen with the FTX debacle, you've seen all the leveraged hands and weak speculators that are operating on margin. They've all been flushed out at this point. And I think towards the end of the year, the market's going to start looking towards 2024 when the Bitcoin miner rewards are halved, right? So Bitcoin becomes harder to produce at the margin. And also people are going to start looking towards monetary stimulation, which has been going on for hundreds of years in fiat currencies. So yeah, that is a technology that we own heavily personally, full disclosure. And we are still very, very optimistic about it over coming decades. So yeah, that is one in technology that we like a lot.
Your confidence has not at all been shaken clearly by FTX, the fraud, the fact that Bitcoin was so inflated by fraud, speculation, monetary stimulus, all for bubblicious type of things.
You can frame it as speculation or you can frame it as volatility in a new asset class, and I think it's the latter. And so if you just look at it, it's been volatile over long periods of time, but it's a phenomenal store of value. The network has never been stronger and more secure than it is today. And so there's, hundreds of millions of people around the world that own Bitcoin and growing. And so we're still very optimistic about it as a technology and where it could go.
How much of the fund is Bitcoin or Bitcoin related at this point?
So in the income strategy, we have a small portion of it in things tied to MicroStrategy, which is the dominant leader in that technology. It's a small percentage, but personally, it's a lot bigger than a small percentage.
And Bill, the Silvergate was one that you had liked. I know I think it was in one of in the competition that you guys do, where you hold stocks for the last year. That's a stock that tanked 43% yesterday after they gave an update of much bigger withdrawals tied to FTX than people were expecting, layoffs. I mean, it was a terrible update. Are you still bullish on that stock?
Yeah, well, the reason it tanked was because I bought the stock personally the day before that. So that's why it went down a lot. That happens anytime I try and buy these sorts of things. I mean, we bought Amazon. We bought Amazon at the open. When it came public. We sold it after it doubled a year later. We bought it back around 90 and it went to 6, but we kept buying it. I think with Silvergate, so I might group Silvergate together with Coinbase because we own Coinbase in the fund. We own and I personally, and then we also own Silvergate. So, but they're completely different sorts of things. Coinbase is more of a direct play on the crypto space, and I want to emphasize something that Bill Four said, which is that Bitcoin, there's no fraud in Bitcoin. You go back to the pandemic when the Fed had to come in and there's a scramble for liquidity and treasuries were being bid through the roof and everything else, mortgage-backed securities were collapsing. And the Fed had to come in and clean those markets by just injecting massive amounts of liquidity. Bitcoin trades 24/7, 365. There wasn't even a hiccup in the Bitcoin market. So the FTX collapse, that was a centralized enterprise, as was Celsius. And I think that it's very important to understand that Bitcoin is dramatically different from that. Somebody said to me the other day, Bitcoin has been really, really terrible. And because it was 60, 70,000 and now it's like 17,000. And I said, well, let's look at it here this way. When on the market low in March of 2020, the market was around 2,300 and Bitcoin was around 5,500. And so since the market low through last week, the market's up 70% and Bitcoin's up 190%. So as Bill Four said, it has been more volatile, except for recently in the past month or so, it's been less volatile than the market. So, I'm optimistic on all those things. I mean, Coinbase has a $7 billion market cap. It's got $5 billion in cash. Its bonds yield 15%. And I think that Brian Armstrong is an excellent CEO. It's much broader than Silvergate, which is actually an FDIC insured bank. And interestingly enough, Silvergate now has about an $18 tangible book. The stock is 11. Silvergate was, I think, around 130 a year ago, and now it's 11. They met all of their deposit withdrawals relatively easily. They had a very liquid balance sheet. Their tangible common equity ratio is higher than JP Morgan's. They were too concentrated in the crypto space. Somebody came out today and said, I think correctly, that they were too concentrated in the deposit space. They'll probably have to diversify that. I think that's accurate. But I would guess that a bank that trading below tangible book And with all their they have more cash than they have deposits right now. So I would guess that in a year from now, Silvergate would likely be at least tangible book, which would have it be up, would be 60, 70%. FTX was a $32 billion company in the second week of November, and Coinbase is a $7 billion company today, and it's a dominant U.S. based company. So I like both those things.
So you're backing it still, Bill.